Morning. It is Thursday morning and I was meant to be doing a video about the pond this morning, but we've had a couple of days of really poor weather. It's just been grey and raining, and so the pond actually isn't looking at its best. The things like the water lilies aren't out because they close up when there's no sunshine, and also if we've had a couple of really nice warm days, if you get up here really early in the morning, the pond is buzzing and it's got loads of life around it. Although the sun is out this morning, it's just not at its best. So instead of doing the pond, which I am still going to be doing hopefully next week, we need a bit of good weather basically for me to do the pond video, and we just haven't had it. So what I'm going to do today is film what I'm cooking for lunch, which is, it's going to be just a piece of cod, which is just like a side thing. But the thing that I really want to talk about is Cavolo Nero, because I love Cavolo Nero. I'm really into leafy greens anyway, as you may have guessed. But Cavolo Nero is a really beautiful vegetable, and I know people take the mickey, but it is a really delicious kale. Also called Tuscan black sometimes, it's that same kind of kale. Anyway, that's what we're having for lunch. And the reason I wanted to film this particular one is because in this case, absolutely everything, the garlic, the chilies, the Cavolo Nero, the Fennel Seed, everything is from the allotment. Everything except the olive oil. I don't have an olive grove. But other than that, the whole lot is from here, and it's just such a simple and really delicious way of eating Cavolo Nero. So I'm up here this morning to go and pick some. Let's go. Okay, well, we've managed to come up here while the sun's actually shining, which is quite the thing at the moment because it's been a while. It has been a while. Anyway, so we've got all of our brassicas growing in 3 beds at the end here, between here and the fruit cage. And I've got 2 different types of Cavolo Nero growing. This is the first one. This is Tuscan black. And the other one on the other side is a kale called Palmisio senza testa. They're pretty much the same, but there is a slight difference in the leaf texture. We grow all of our brassicas under brassica netting to keep the cabbage white butterflies off. And can you see with this leaf how kind of flat it is in comparison to the one I'm about to show you? So it's quite kind of smooth, and this one is the Tuscan black, so it's really crinkled. So they're quite different, but they taste very similar. So like I say, we keep all of our brassicas covered for 2 reasons. It isn't just the cabbage whites, it's also because of pigeons, because pigeons just go crazy for them, and the netting will keep them off. I'll put links to where you can get the seed for both of these different types in the blurb underneath the video. It's actually not too late to sow either of them for a crop going into the winter now. We'll be sowing another lot mid-July to keep us going through December into March next year. Kale is an incredibly easy thing to grow, and it's really nice because it's not a single crop. It's a cut and come again type scenario. So you're just picking from the bottom. They grow up like a palm tree, and you're constantly picking from the lower half of the plant. And as you do that, it will continue to grow and produce new leaves. Both of these kales can be picked really young, like the really small leaves, and they're absolutely beautiful in a salad. But I find if you're picking the leaves when they're really small, i.e. the ones from the crown, the plant kind of loses some of its vigor. So I tend to just go with the gnarlier, older leaves. Even when they're really gnarly, they make really fantastic crisps, so you can put them in the oven just with a bit of olive oil and crisp them up. That is really delicious. Some of these have been absolutely got at by snails. This one's all right, the other one's not. This is our first proper picking of the Cavolo Nero this year, and as the season progresses, I will put more of these recipes either on here or on my blog, and I'll tell you about them. Anyway, when you're picking them, it's best to take everything off the lower, so don't just pick the best leaves and leave the rubbishy ones on. Like, pick them all off underneath, so you're kind of creating a clear stem. You don't have to eat the rubbishy ones, but just take them off the plant. So that is the Cavolo Nero got. Lacy as it may be, it's still going to be good. If you can hear somebody shouting, there's a PE lesson going on just over there, and there is just a universal truth about PE teachers that they can't not shout. Why do they shout all the time? I don't know. To be honest, I've never really got on with PE teachers, so maybe it's a personal issue. But yeah, the shouting doesn't do it for me. But anyway, so one of the other key ingredients to what I'm going to make for lunch is fennel seed, and this is going to be fennel seed that we grew last year. So there's two kinds of fennel that you can grow. One of them is Florence Fennel, where you get the bulb at the bottom. So then it's the bulb part of it that you eat. And the other type is like a Florence Fennel, where you eat the foliage or the seed. And so we grew that last year. In previous years, I hadn't realised that there was such an enormous difference between Florence Fennel and kind of like tufty, frondy fennel. And Florence Fennel, if you eat the leaves, or if you put the leaves in a soup like I've done previously, it just tastes like you're chewing chaff. Don't do that. Just stick to the bulb on the Florence one, and the frondy fennel, we use that for the other things, but including the seed. So I'm just going to show you, we've actually got a Florence Fennel which has gone to seed up there. It looks very similar, but we won't be eating the seed from it, but let me show you anyway. So underneath this pea netting, we did plant 5 Florence Fennel. 4 of them were eaten by slugs instantly, and this was the remainder, and it's just bolted almost immediately. So this is the Florence Fennel. So normal fennel that you get the seed from has flowers like this. It has smaller, tuftier leaves than these. These are quite large and much less thick stems. Like these are really, really tough. The reason we're letting this one go to seed is because we are going to be collecting the seed from this, but like I say, we're not going to be using it for culinary purposes. We're going to use the seed for the next generation of Florence Fennel. Yeah, so that is going to be our lunch, but it's actually still only like 6 minutes past 9 in the morning, so it's a little early for lunch. And so we're just going to potter around up here. Mum is currently pulling duckweed out of the pond, and I'm going to do a bit of sowing, but I need to sow another line of carrots. We're going to potter around up here, and I will see you back at home. Let's have some lunch. Okay, so like I was saying, some of this is a little bit lacy, but it's not going to make any difference. But it does need a really good wash. It needs a good wash because it does have some whitefly on the back of it. I don't really have a great deal of problem eating whitefly. Sometimes later in the year we do get quite a lot of it. But if you noticed on the brassicas, we do only have the butterfly netting. Some people cover their brassicas with Enviromesh, which is a really fine mesh, which will stop whitefly getting in. But we never use Enviromesh on brassicas because what always happens is that the whitefly gets in anyway, and what happens is that there's then no predators get in because of the Enviromesh, and we always end up with just basically a whitefly haven, and the population absolutely explodes in there, and we end up with, like, when you take the Enviromesh off, just like everything's white. So actually we're much better off just having the butterfly netting on to keep the butterflies at bay. Sometimes if you notice, if you saw my vlog last week, we did have one butterfly in there because the pegging had come loose at one end. It's not a great big deal. We're always checking for caterpillars anyway. This kind of damage, this hasn't been done by caterpillars, this is snails, unfortunately. And netting won't keep snails out. So yeah, but that's why we don't use Enviromesh and why there's always a little bit of whitefly on there, but never in any numbers that's going to cause a problem, unlike when we have the Enviromesh on, when it's just like a hellhole of whitefly. So yeah, I'm going to give these a wash first, and I'm also going to stem them. is the Cavolo Nero done, and there's so few ingredients in this. The next one is garlic, and I'm using our own garlic this year. We lifted it about 2 weeks ago. Some of them are looking really nice. I mean, there's some good bulbs in there. Some of them aren't so nice, and some of the ones that aren't so nice are the ones that we're using early because they just won't store. So we've got this one, which is a little bit, actually it's coming good now. It is drying out nicely, but it didn't look so good at the beginning. And you can see they've all got terrible rust. But you know, the bulbs were all right, and they didn't rot out in the ground, which is what I was expecting them to do with all this wonderful weather we've been having. So anyway, next thing is a couple of cloves of garlic. I wouldn't put them through a crusher because the pieces are too small and they will fry off too quickly in the olive oil. So you want them to be relatively kind of meaty pieces. If you used a planer as well, it would just be too much of a mush. So yeah, it just wants to be sliced or diced. Sliced or diced. You can see here, I mean, these haven't cured off. This one's getting a bit better. It's starting to go papery. This one hasn't so much. So the skin on each of the cloves is really thick. And the garlic will be a milder flavour. We'll just let that get hot, and the other two things I need are the Fennel Seed and last year's chili flakes. So these are the fennel seeds. They smell amazing. Really, really lovely. And they're quite large, but they've got a really incredible like aniseed flavour. Now, I'm not a great fan of aniseed. I don't particularly like licorice or anything like that. I really don't like licorice, but I like sambuca. Anyway, really delicious. And the other thing is chili flakes. I don't have many of these left actually, but don't do that. This is quite a strong chili flakes. So part of the reason that you want your garlic to be quite chunky and have quite a heavy bottomed pan is that you want this garlic to be really nice and brown like that, but if it was in really tiny pieces, it would go too far the other side and you'd end up with really bitter garlic, where when it's gone like this really golden brown colour, that's what you're looking for. really, really simple, but it's so good. And you could have that with anything, basically. Actually, no, that's a lie. Like chocolate panna cotta, not a good combo. I'm not a vegetarian. Having said that, like the percentage, if you drew a pie chart of my diet, like a very large section of that pie is just veg. We don't eat very much meat at all. But I am not a vegetarian. And for lunch today, we're just going to have that and a piece of pan-fried cod. Delish. So we've actually got some potatoes left from yesterday. So we've been investigating what's going on in our potato bags, because we're growing all of our potatoes in bags this year. And we're only growing earlies and they're all earlies. So first earlies, second earlies. We've only got one main crop, and that's kind of elsewhere, which is a pink fir apple. But all of them are either the first earlies or second earlies. And so it doesn't really matter enormously, but we've kind of lost track of what's in what bag. So it's kind of a very exciting pick a mix when we turf out one of the bags and see what's in there. But these were yesterday's, and we had them for dinner last night, and we got some left over. So we're going to have them with it too. Thing on there that's not ours is the cod and the olive oil and the salt.